Today is all about these things, the woods. The club that most club golfers, in my opinion, find the toughest in order to strike, in order to get airborne. And in today's video, instead of talking about what to do, we're going to be talking about what not to do. And more specifically, the three most common things that I see people do on the lesson tee when it comes to hitting these things off the floor. So, without further ado, let's get stuck in.
We was in the trenches, now look how we out here ballin'. Popped up in the max, now we flooring in the fall. We ain't do it showing like
So bullet point number one, and this one in my opinion is more of a conceptual idea above a mechanical or technical idea, and that is simply people hitting the golf ball by hitting the golf ball and the golf club moving on the way up. So what you'll see and what this will materialise in is quite a lot of this kind of flicky, scoopy kind of motion. You might see some people hang behind, get that weight staying on that back foot in order to help the golf ball up as well. And what essentially happens is we see a lot of compromisation of the low point of the golf club relative to the golf ball and how we need to hit the golf ball with this club in particular. So to help illustrate this, again, let's start with concept. So this is the floor, my ball is going that way, here is the golf ball. The way I want to strike this golf ball is the low point of the golf club, where that golf club touches the ground, wants to be just kind of the smallest smidge ahead of the golf ball, nothing too crazy. So what that will look like is the golf club will travel, it'll be travelling down as it comes in the hitting area, bottoming out just after the golf ball, and then travelling up on quite a shallow kind of arc. So what essentially happens when we have a concept or a want to hit on the way up is we'll see our golf club travel on the way down still, but as you'll kind of notice on this diagram, the low point of our golf club is quite before the golf ball. So what happens is if it's too far before the golf ball, we can see our fats, if that low point actually materialises in some kind of divot depth before the golf ball. By the same measure, the golf club starts working up, it'll start to work up too soon. So I can hit the middle of the golf ball, and that'll be my fins. And kind of in a worst case scenario, and this applies to driver as well, the golf club moves up too early, low points too before, then what I can see is tops as well. So your trio of fats, thins, tops can all be very heavily related to low point being too far before the golf ball because I am leaning back, flicking or whatever it is, or a combination of the two to help that golf ball up and in turn actually compromising striking any kind of loft or lift I'm going to get on the golf ball through that idea. Point number two, and very closely linked to our now newfound idea, if we like, of hitting down the golf ball versus helping it on the way up is ball position. The best way for me to illustrate ball position, and broadly speaking now, is I like to use a 3-ball rule when it comes to ball position. So the easiest way to explain is if we think about our irons and wedges, we want to hit down the golf ball, we want to compress those irons and wedges so we get that strike and get that flight. When it comes to our woods, maybe in our hybrid as well, we still want to hit down the golf ball relative to our first point, but not with the same amount of severity. It's more of a bruise in the ground rather than a squeeze and compression. And our last kind of impact is exclusive with the driver. That is an impact where we want to hit on the way up on the golf ball so that we can get lift when the golf ball is on a tee. So with that in mind, the 3-ball rule simply is if ball number 1 is in the middle of my stance, ball number 2 is just ahead, and ball number 3 obviously is in line. If I was to set up to ball number 1 with the golf ball being in the middle of my stance, as we said, that'll be all irons and wedges. Ball number 2 is my woods and hybrid. And then number 3 will be my driver. And without even moving, as most of you will know, or hopefully know, that that will pretty much almost automatically be just inside my left heel. So that's a nice broad kind of way to look at ball position. And for the everyday golfer, and most golfers, in fact, you're never going to go far wrong. So relative to today's video, when it comes to hitting the woods, we want our ball to be basically just a ball ahead of where your irons would be, or just a ball ahead of centre would be absolutely perfect. Finally, point number 3, such an easy one, but such an obvious and simple one for us all to deploy is assess your lie. So many people kind of go onto the golf course, they know they're going to smash their driver, and they're thinking in their mind that no matter what, wherever that second shot is, they're going to be hitting their wood. And more often than not, they're just making the game a little bit too hard for themselves, because if the golf ball is on the fairway, or if the golf ball is in the semi-rough, especially if it's teed up, then that's absolutely fine for us to hit the wood. But if the golf ball is now in slightly thicker rough, especially if it's that thick, wet rough which we've had over the winter here in the UK, then our ability to get any kind of strike, any kind of loft on the golf ball, regardless of our technique with our wood, is going to be much harder. So assess your lie. As we said, if it's on the fairway, or the semi-rough, feel free to hit the wood, but anytime we're in that kind of thick, long grass, take your medicine. Get the iron out, get it back into play, and if you still need a wood from there, then do so. Now, before we finish the video, I want to leave you with a nice simple drill that anyone can use on the range to help you hit these woods much better. So, as you see, I've got a golf club down here on the floor, or in my case, a alignment stick, and this is going to symbolise centre of the stance. Now, I want you to grab those 3 golf balls that we spoke about in the ball position phase of this video, and just with a little bit of room in front, just line them up so that the first ball is in line with the stick. Now, from there, we want to grab this ball, which is going to be our hitting ball, and because we are hitting a wood in this video, this ball is not going to be in line with the first ball, but it's going to be in line with the second ball. So I now know that if I set up with the stick in the middle of my stance, I now have the golf ball, 1 ball ahead of centre, 1 ball ahead of the golf ball. And what I'm going to use this kind of final ball for here, this last ball, if I'm hitting to my left here, is I want to look at the piece of ground or the grass just in front of that ball, and my conscious effort there now is for this golf club to bruise the floor in line with that golf ball. If you're on the grass, you can further this by kind of picking out a piece of grass just in front, or putting down a tee just in front and focus on hitting that. Or if you're on the mat, you can even grab yourself a piece of chalk and just scribble a little mark just in front of the golf ball. Again, just to help with a conscious visual, something physical for you to actually try and physically bruise on the way through to help enforce that downwards move. So I'm going to hit a shot for you in a moment. I'm going to kind of set this all up. And I just want you to kind of make note and see where my ground strike is, and kind of trust that that ground strike is fractionally ahead of the golf ball and not actually behind the golf ball, in order to help me hit the golf ball on the way up. So hopefully there's some ideas there that will really help open your eyes to some of the stuff that you've been doing, with a nice simple drill there to finish off with that anyone can deploy to help them hit these woods, these big scary golf clubs, a little bit easier from there. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any further questions or any comments, please feel free to drop me a comment in the comment section down below, or you can drop me a follow on my socials and give me a message from there. For any in-person or online coaching, feel free to download and message me on the SKILLEST app, search David Atkins and drop me a message there. But until next time, catch you next time.
These blessings keep on pouring. Every time we drop, you know the people gon' support it. See into the future, I could tell it's gon' be more lit. Used to tell myself, now I'm wild and can't afford it. We was in the stool